Ambassador Kelrix of the Vryn Confederacy stood before the assembled Galactic Council, his crystalline form refracting the cold light of distant stars through the observation dome. 3 centuries had passed since the Council had made their decision regarding Earth. 3 centuries since they had declared humanity too dangerous, too unpredictable, too primitive to join the galactic community. The quarantine remains in effect, Kelrix announced, his voice resonating through translation fields. The humans have been contained to their system. Their sun will eventually fail, and the problem will resolve itself naturally. The council members, representing 47 species across 12 star sectors, murmured their agreement. It was a mercy, they told themselves. Better than extermination. The humans had shown too much aggression, too much ambition in their first contact. They had demanded equality rather than accepting their place as a developing species. They had refused subjugation. So the Council had erected the barrier, an impenetrable quantum field surrounding Sol system, powered by the combined technology of civilizations millions of years old. Nothing could enter. Nothing could leave. Humanity was trapped in a cosmic prison, left to consume their meager resources until entropy claimed them. What the Council didn't know was that humanity had been watching, listening, learning. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, humanity's first true warship. Though no council member would recognize it as such, it didn't follow the elegant, efficient designs favored by galactic civilization. It was brutal, asymmetric, a patchwork of stolen physics and desperate innovation. "Status on the Hellfire drive?" she asked. "Stable at 98%, her engineer reported. Commander James Morrison had lost his wife to the resource wars that followed the quarantine. He had personal reasons for wanting this to work. The singularity is contained, barely. The Hellfire drive. Humanity's answer to a question the Council had never thought to ask. What happens when you tell a species they're going to die and give them 300 years to think about it? They had started with the Council's own technology, reverse-engineered from the barrier itself. They had studied its quantum harmonics, mapped its power signatures, dissected its fundamental architecture. Then they had done what humanity always did when faced with impossible odds. They had weaponized it. The Hellfire drive didn't just break the laws of physics the Council operated under, it violated them with extreme prejudice. At its core burned a micro-singularity, force-fed exotic matter and held in place by magnetic fields that should have been impossible to generate. It was unstable, dangerous. It had killed 17,000 people in testing alone. It was perfectly human. "All ships report ready," the communications officer announced. Behind the Prometheus hung the rest of humanity's fleet. 300 vessels, each one a middle finger to every principle of civilized warfare. Ships that burned their own crew compartments for fuel in emergencies. Ships equipped with weapons that irradiated their own gunners. Ships designed by people who had already accepted that survival meant sacrifice. "Open a channel," Sarah ordered. "All frequencies. I want the entire galaxy to hear this." The communications array, cobbled together from mining laser emitters and scavenged council technology, screamed into the void with enough power to be heard across 100 light-years. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of Earth speaking for humanity. 300 years ago, you locked us away. You decided we were too dangerous for your perfect, ordered galaxy. You thought we would quietly die in our cage." She paused, letting her words echo across the stars. "You were right about one thing. We are dangerous, but you made a mistake. You gave us time, you gave us motivation, and you showed us exactly how your barrier works." Sarah nodded to Morrison. "Light it up." The Hellfire drive roared to life. The Prometheus shuddered as the singularity at its heart began to spin, faster and faster, warping space-time itself into a weapon. The barrier around Sol system, that supposedly impenetrable wall, began to resonate, to shake, to scream, because humanity had learned something the Council never expected them to discover. The barrier wasn't just a wall. It was a battery. And for 3 centuries, Earth's sun had been charging it with unfathomable amounts of energy. The Prometheus didn't break through the barrier. It detonated it. The explosion was visible from 300 light-years away. The quantum field collapsed catastrophically, releasing 300 years of stored stellar energy in a single, apocalyptic pulse. It didn't just destroy the barrier. It created a shockwave that swept through subspace itself, disabling every council ship and station within 50 light-years. and through the flames humanity's fleet emerged. Ambassador Kelrix received the transmission 17 hours later. His crystalline form flickered with what might have been fear as he watched the footage. Human ships, crude and burning, tearing through the Council's defensive perimeter like sharks through a school of fish. They weren't trying to conquer. They were making a point. The message that followed was simple. You left us to die among the stars, so we built a throne of fire and decided to rule them instead. We're coming for our seat at the Council, not as supplicants, not as subjects, as equals. Prepare accordingly. Kelrix looked at the Council chamber, at the representatives who had so confidently condemned humanity to slow extinction. They had wanted to avoid war with a dangerous species. They had created something far worse. A dangerous species with nothing left to lose and 300 years to plan their revenge. Humanity hadn't just survived their imprisonment. They had evolved. They had weaponized their own desperation, turned their death sentence into a declaration of war, and emerged from isolation not as victims, but as conquerors. The galaxy had tried to leave humanity to die among the stars. Humanity had simply decided to take the stars with them instead. And,